Okay, we are live. Um, this is going to be rather easy because basically it's everything. Google provides everything you need to do recurring events. Um, I have to get set up here just a second. Uh, since John Matt, we've got him coming in. Um, this is all based on the shoe. It doesn't apply to any of the other events. YouTube Live event doesn't apply to the traditional event, although there are ways to handle the traditional event that I'll probably go into at a later time. Uh, Basically, all you do is you set up a shoe scheduled hangout on air event and give it a date far into the future. The further, the better, actually, because what you're going to do is you're going to use that as the basis for a template that you can always go back to create a new event with the same content, basically, except for whatever changes you want to make in the details section. Let me screen share and I will show you this. We want the, I think it's this one we want. Okay, that's not the one we want. Hang on. I clicked the wrong thing. That's also not what we want. Stop it. As you can see, I'm not used to screen sharing. Okay, here we go. We'll go with this one. You set up an event like no. All right. Now, supposedly you are looking at my screen. You set up an event like this. Then it should be far into the future. We'll go over here. Let's pull up one that's far into the future. Okay, we'll go in here and say events. And I know we've got one set up for December 2017. We'll go to this one. Okay. Now, what you have here, as you can see, I've set up a standard banner that will never change. I've set up a standard trailer, which will never change. This trailer can be either a static image, it can be a video, it can be a image, non-transparent overlay, and then you can do a voiceover. Basically, what you want to do is get all of your standard stuff in one template. So what you would do is you would go down, get your after you get these, then you would, in your detail section, you would have uh, the aha. There's John. Hello, John.
Hi, Andrew.
uh, in your detail section, you would want to put everything that won't change. If you've got details about a series that you're going to do, or if you want to explain your website, or any what they call boilerplate that doesn't change from one event to the next, you put that into your detail section. You get your two standard banners and your trailer, and you create the event. Then, when it comes time for you to actually have an event, and you only invite yourself. You set this up as a private, okay? Then when you go to have your actual event, you can duplicate the event it picks up everything that you put in there. You can put in the right time, be it starting right when you want to start it, or you can set the date. And what you can do at that point is take this out and invite the public. It changes it to a public event. It will publish it out where you need it to go. Then you can take and create a single paragraph about exactly what this event's going to be like, and you slap it in right here so that it'll occur right after the time and location, and then your boilerplate will be below that. You can put any links in you want or anything, and you can set up, 5, 6, 7, 10 of these out at a time, and then you just change them to public as you need them to come up. It's really simple. That way you don't wind up typing that boilerplate over and over or having to copy and paste it over and over. It does it just basically by itself, and that's really the way that's all it is. If there's anybody's got any questions about exactly the details of this thing, this is just a quick overview.
Mm-hmm.
I can show you the same thing in a traditional Hangout, which actually in some cases works better because you get that ticket button and you get that official website button. You can put in links there to videos that may be linked to this event or videos that you want people to see before coming to this event. This is the most flexible thing I've found, and I really like having the standard trailer and use that, actually create that as a non-transparent custom overlay. Go in, and when you're recording the trailer, use that instead of you being on screen, because people will tend to listen. If you're on screen, they'll watch you and just sort of listen, and they'll be looking around at buttons and stuff. If there's nothing there to see, they may be going over, and you could actually read out the details if you wanted to. I don't know, to what lengths you need to go. I do know that you want to keep, contrary to popular belief, I do not believe in packing the details, because most people will not read all the way through them. If you do a short paragraph about who your guest is and what he's going to cover, no more than 2 or 3 sentences, and then another short paragraph of the boilerplate stuff, where your website's located, what equipment you're going to be using or whatever. It's flexible. I can't give specific examples because it can be also individualized. And with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing, and we'll come up here and see if John's got any questions, because I think John is the only one here. I haven't seen anybody else come in.
So in other words, what you've done is you've created the template.
Mm-hmm. Basically.
Yeah, that's what you've done. You've created the template, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. Because and I'm just sitting here, and part of the reason I was interested in this is I've already got 4 guests committed for my next 4 Hangouts. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And having to go in and set that event page and banner up over and over and over again just gets real tedious.
Mm-hmm. It does. I mean, now what you can do, I did create a template for a standard banner, the 1200 by 300.
Right.
I put a 300 by 300 square on the right-hand side for a picture of the host, a blank 300 by 300 square on the left-hand side where you can put the picture of the guest,
mm-hmm.
and that leaves a 600 by 300 square in the center where you can actually put whatever verbiage you want.
So that's a good idea too.
So if you wanted to have standard verbiage and your picture, then every event you only have to change the host's picture and then cover what he's going to do in the trailer that you do. So you don't have to constantly play with the standard banner, Or you could put, run it all across, make it 600 by 300 for the verbiage, and then use his picture as the trailer and do the voiceover about what he's going to be doing in that event. That, you know, it's just like I say, it's so flexible.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize that, Andrew. I don't think they realize just how much you can do with this stuff very basically.
Yeah. Well, you know, for a long time I didn't, and as you know, I use Business Hangouts. Well, they finally did a duplicate button where you can do it per event. Now they did have it on their rooms thing, but they've got it now where you can do it on an event. And I thought, oh, that's sort of neat, but there's no way to do that in Choose particularly.
Right.
You know, you have to go. So I thought, well, you get as much common stuff into one, and then you duplicate that, and then you just have to go in to make little changes. Because for every event, you're going to have to change the date and the time anyway.
Right.
So you can just as easily paste a paragraph about your host, but then have all the other stuff already there. So at least you don't have to retype that. You don't even have to copy and paste it.
Yeah.
It does it for you automatically. Yeah.
That's a great idea. And I think especially for people who do regular Hangouts or who do a lot of them, it saves a lot of time because it unless you're a graphic artist and you can whip this stuff up in 15 minutes, which most people aren't. Okay?
True. Yeah, I'm not.
I'm not either. Okay, if it weren't for Terry Lee, I wouldn't know how to use Pixlr.
Yeah, bless Pixlr. Yeah.
Really, Pixlr and PicMonkey. Okay, and this way, the person who enjoys doing multiple Hangouts doesn't have to make that investment time. And honestly, a lot of people I talk to say they love the camera part, they love the film strip part, they enjoy all that. It's that time-consuming part of putting everything down there in the event page and what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and this makes it so simple.
Yeah, and what's also good is it's good for somebody that doesn't do Hangouts very often because they don't have to remember all that stuff, because if they get it set, take it real slow, get it set up once, then all they've got to do is hit that duplicate button and make the changes for the date and the time and what the host is going to be covering and go with it. They don't have to remember all that other stuff. Did I paste the right thing in, or have I got the right graphic up or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, I just these little tips and techniques that that people just don't know. But I think earlier this week, and you and Michael and I think Leela Martin were talking about how in a lot of ways Google's like the old DOS shell. Okay, you have to figure stuff out.
That's right.
And that's, I think the platform's so good, but that's also why the platform's free, because you have to figure a lot of stuff out.
That's true. It does not come with an instruction manual. Yeah.
But
as bad as we would like to print Ronnie Benzer out,
Yeah. Well, but you stop and realize something, that you take people like Ronnie and to another extent Martin Shervington, and you realize that these guys spend 8 to 10 hours a day doing nothing but Google Plus. Okay, I mean, and when you realize there's so much information and so many different angles and ways of looking at it, it is a full-time job for a couple of these people.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and the thing is, bless them for making most of that information free and passing it along to the others.
Yeah.
That's what astounds me, is they are so generous with their time and help,
Well, and I think, to me, that's the hallmark of most Google communities I belong to, that people are very willing to help, okay? I would have never known about User to User if it weren't for Rain Dowell. And Rain said to me, I think you're making a few mistakes, but let me tell you where you can go so you can get some help, so you'll learn not to make those mistakes, okay? And, I mean, I didn't know her from Adam at the time.
Yeah, Rain's been one of our more stalwart friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, Karen Chin did kind of a wrap-up to a monthly challenge she had yesterday, and she had people coming in and out of the film strip to talk about how they enjoyed the challenge and everything else. And God love her, there's one little girl on there from Alabama, and she just froze up. And she said a thing out of it, and I told her this morning, you didn't do too bad, given the first time you sat down in front of your computer. But I said, the more you do this and the more you work with it, the more comfortable you're going to be. I said, find people to chat with. Find people to do. There's times, even I've been doing this 18 months, and I'm by no stretch of the imagination an expert, but I'll go in and set up a private hangout just to practice. Mm-hmm. Just so if if somebody somewhere decides they're bored and they're going to press a button, okay, that at least I know how to handle if it happens when I'm doing it to a live audience.
Yeah.
Now, I told somebody this morning, this guy likes to golf, and I said, no, what do you do once or twice a week? He said, I go to the driving range. I said, okay. You just can't sit down in front of this microphone and camera, and you just can't start talking. I said, I guess you can, okay, if you want to do it with your kids or your grandkids or nieces or nephews or what have you, but if you're going to use it for a practical purpose, you got to practice.
That's true. That's very true. In fact, that's something I really should do more of, is the practicing with the hosting, because this business about looking into the camera, and I mean there are several rules that I break on a daily basis, if not hourly, But then again, I'm not trying to be a professional. I'm not trying to sell anything.
Right.
Except maybe coming into the community to use it, to learn how to operate the thing, So I'm not really, out to impress anybody or anything. I've had 2 or 3 people tell me, oh, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. Mm-hmm. And what they're telling me is I should become a salesman. And I've walked off of 3 jobs where they tried to make me a salesman. I just, selling is not something that I do.
Right.
And, providing help, that's different.
Right.
I don't consider that selling. It's just like, I'm here. If you want to take advantage of the service, come on in.
Well, and I think, too, these short instructional videos, okay, I think what's attractive about them is that a lot of times people don't have an hour or an hour and 15 minutes to sit down, okay? They're interested, but they want I want to learn this one part, and if I can do it in 15 minutes to a half hour, that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've got nothing against that as long as they first have a good basic understanding, because they've got to have the overall picture and then start looking at the little individual parts that they want to do. But if they don't have a good founding in the foundation of the platform itself, if they don't know at least partially the interface, where to find stuff, and they're coming in and picking up this piece here and that piece there, they'll never put all those pieces together because they've got no framework to put it in. Right. That's the reason I'd love, if somebody wants to use this, fine, contact me. I can set up anytime a one-on-one, and within a week, or 2 weeks, depending on how often they want to talk to me, I can get them the framework, and then they can pick up all the little pieces they want. And if they're interested in short videos, a good place to get them is over on Dear Myrtle. She and Russ do some excellent short videos on Hangouts, how to do them and set them up and everything. Not that Ronnie and the others don't, but that's one more thing. Specifically, there's a more at societies that are doing membership meetings and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, they need to check that out.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I think, and again, I think people like Ronnie and those folks and Michael, okay, that donate a lot of their time. It's kind of like a TV show, though. You got your favorite host, and you just seem to develop a rapport with that favorite host. I think the more people that become proficient in this platform, the better. Mm-hmm. because that way they're going to reach that audience of people. You know, it didn't go without notice. As much as Facebook slammed Google for the longest time, all of a sudden Facebook has started video chatting.
Yeah, you noticed, huh?
Yeah, all of a sudden, and I'll tell you how I noticed little cameras down in the corner, and I had to ask one of my kids. I said, "What is that?" They said, "Oh, you can video chat on Facebook now." I said, "Really?" Okay, and you know, I don't begrudge them charging businesses for ads. It's kind of like if I want to set a lemonade stand up on your front porch and not give you part of the proceeds. You know, I don't have a problem with them doing that, but I thought for the longest time they pushed and pushed and pushed that Google's not stable, it's not going to be around for a long time, and everything else, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, real quietly, they just kind of started putting their video chats in, and I haven't tried one yet because I don't. Honestly, they kind of threw that out there and did it without a lot of instruction. So you got people that are getting pinged for video chats, and they're not quite sure what's going on. So
yeah, I don't play on Facebook except to keep up with my sister's neighborhood watch stuff that she does.
Well, I have 4 cousins that I hadn't seen in 40 years that if it weren't for Facebook, I wouldn't communicate with. They're all down in Florida. And my uncle, when my uncle found out, Joan and I were married in 74, so my uncle found out in 75 that he had prostate cancer, and he had always wanted to live in Florida, and he moved down there from Wisconsin, and he died down there, and my aunt and my 1, 2, 3, 4 cousins all stayed down there, and of course life goes on, you lose track of people and everything, and if it weren't for Facebook, I wouldn't have reconnected with 4 of my cousins. So, you know, it has value, and I think that value is a personal value. That's the way I look at it.
Well, I've got some cousins that I found on Facebook, and I mean they are distant cousins. They are my great-grandfather's descendants. And one of them worked for the railroad in Cuba during the Spanish-American War. He married a Cuban woman, and I found them on Facebook. And the thing is, they've got a Belgian name. You know, so it was really freaky. But anyway, I found them, and we made contact. But we now do private email stuff. We rarely contact on Facebook itself, you know. And I've got a lot of people like that where I found them on Facebook, but the continuing conversation takes place off Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, I know my sister went to Florida this summer, and she connected with my cousins. I think they had lunch. He'll send me a message every now and then because that's a real odd situation. My mom's brother, okay, married my dad's cousin. Okay? So my aunt and uncle my aunt is also my cousin, okay? And so my cousins are my first cousins and my second cousins once removed, depending on which side of the family you look at. Okay?
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's like, you know, Victoria and Albert, you know, there are 35 blood relationships you can trace between the two of them. So that means that all of their children were also the first cousins of their siblings.
Yep.
You know,
yep.
Yeah, and of course then 2 generations later they started intermarrying, and it just gets wild after that. Yeah. But it was, when I was doing the helping on the Royal 92 JEDCOM, we got to looking and we stopped looking at 35. I'm certain there are more than that. The further back you can trace. And now that more documents are actually coming online, they probably could be traced easier than what we were doing. You know, but I thought 35 relationships between 2 people. You know, Albert's mother-in-law was also his aunt. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, especially back then, and especially with royalty, it was so political too. that
yeah.
you had to make sure you kept these connections together, and you did it by marrying a 4-year-old to a 60-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yes.
if you got invaded, you had somebody to back you up.
Or an escape hole that you could get out of the
Yeah.
country and go to. One of the
Yeah.
two, depending on which way it went. Well, John, I'm going to go ahead and stop this
Okay.
broadcast. I planned it for just 30 minutes because I'm going to go grab a bite to eat and everything before we have our game tonight. I'm assuming you will be there?
Yeah, I will be there. That's right. I'm glad you reminded me.
Okay. Well, we
Okay.
will see you then, sir. Let me stop this broadcast
Okay.
first.